I should put on my glasses. Can't see jack shiz. I think my head's getting cut off. Hi friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited. This is going to be the first actual real episode this year, and I'm so excited. I made it my goal to do YouTube this year, and I'm going to make it happen no matter what, because I've been telling myself this literally since I was in high school that I was going to have a YouTube channel, and then I keep making videos being like, I'm going to start one, and then I never do it. But this year, we're doing it, and we're starting with just some book content, which I'm so excited about. So today, we are going to go over the top 10 fantasy and then top 10 romance books that I read in 2024. I read over 100 books. I think I read 105. Hold. Nope. Cancel. Done. I read 104. 104 books in 2024. A lot of them are rereads, but I read a lot of new ones. So, without further ado, let's go.
I'm walking slowly, I'm taking my time. All I like the talking is starting to rhyme. I just can't get enough of this beautiful life. Forgive me all you can of this beautiful life.
I literally just made a video of this for TikTok, and now I don't even remember which order I put things in. I added a different book, and now I am lost as to what I should do. And this is probably going to be different than the one that's on TikTok. That's hilarious. But I'm going to go in more depth, so it's fine. Okay, I'm not quite sure 100% which order that I'm going to put these books in. We're just going to go as it happens. So, I think, though, that my 10th place fantasy read of 2024 was All This Twisted Glory. This is the third book in the This Woven Kingdom series. It is by Tahara Mafi, which I have been a huge fan of the Shatter Me series since it was literally coming out when I was in high school. It is one of the first books that I read that got me into reading. I just really like her style of writing. She has cursive writing. It's what I call it. It's very flowery and very beautiful writing, and I feel like this is not shy away from that aspect. But I give it 10th place because once I looked outside of the things that I had problems with it, it was actually really great. And really, honestly, the one thing that really is pulling this book forward for me is Cyrus, which is the main male, love interest in the book. He is amazing, and the banter and everything is just so good. The tension is literally palpable. I am obsessed with it. But I did have some issues with it because I thought that this was the last book in the series, so I was like, oh, it's gonna be all, finished. No, there's actually 5, and I didn't know that until I was literally almost done with the book. I was like, we are not getting very far, and I realized it's because this is not indeed the last book. It was very slow, and it literally this entire book spans over one day, which was really weird. But outside of that, the characters, the main guy Cyrus really makes it 10th place. For sure. Next is Powerless. I can't get over the fact that I read this book this year for the first time because it literally feels like a fever dream. I felt like I've known and read about this book so much that I feel like I have read it already years ago, but I have not. So, obviously, Reckless came out this year as well, and I feel like I definitely had a lot of problems with Reckless, but that does not change the fact that I really did love reading Powerless. I really like her style of writing. It's definitely the style of writing that I'm very much drawn to, that little, easier to read first-person writing style. I also just think that it's, almost refreshing sometimes when a book is, so stupid simple. It's, there's the ordinaries and the elites, and it's just so straightforward, almost, to the point where you're it's dumb, but I definitely like that aspect of it. Obviously, I'm super excited for Fearless to come out this year. I didn't love Reckless, but I have hope. I have hope that it's really going to pull through. I also feel like one of my issues with Reckless was the banter was just too much, but in this one, I loved it, and I loved the banter and everything like that, so I definitely love Powerless. I also really like Powerful. Honorable mention for Powerful due to the fact that I literally sobbed my eyes out when I read it. If you did not cry, crazy. I'm saying this because Layton, my best friend, did not cry when she read Powerful, and I don't know how. Soulless. Okay, in 8th place, I have Heartless Hunter. I feel like everyone forgot about this book so fast, but Rebel Witch is the second book that's coming out in, literally, a couple months. I'm pretty sure it comes out in February or March. And I just feel like we forgot about this way too fast. I really liked it. It was just I read it during a time where I was struggling to find good fantasy books that I liked, and then I read this, and I was like, amazing. A beautifully traditionally published romantasy book. And I loved it. I love kind of like the forbidden romance. She's a witch hiding from him in plain sight. I love it. And then I also cried at the end. I did sob. There is something about an author who is not scared to take risks that I just love. I really, really do love. And though hate, because usually it rips my heart out, but it was so good. I don't know if you guys know much about this, but I'm pretty sure it's just supposed to be a duology, which is really nice. But and honestly, I read this like 6 months ago, so let me review what I even remember happened. Oh, that's right. That's why I liked it. Because Rune is the main girl, and she is a witch in hiding, where in a world they have, like, witch killers, and they kill the witches. Anyways, and she's hiding amongst the, like, high elite, so she's kind of known as, like, this just, like, prissy, popular, like, society girl. But at night, she's a vigilante. And I just think that's so, so good. I love it. In 7th place? Oh, you know what? I realized I think I have 11. Sorry, we get an honorable mention at the end. Okay. Next is The Games Gods Play. This is a new adult fantasy. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention what the other ones were. Powerless and All This Twisted Glory are both, and Heartless Hunter. All three of those were YA fantasy. The Games Gods Play is a new adult fantasy or romantasy, basically meaning that it's like a little bit, it has that easier reading style, like Fourth Wing is also new adult, but it has smut and spice and doesn't really have that same filter that like YA does. Anyways, this is like a Greek mythology telling where basically the like Greek gods have like a human representative that have to compete in these trials, and Hades ends up having this girl, and it's a cute romantasy story where like Hades is more of like the misunderstood villain than he is like the actual villain, which I love. I also just love Greek mythology. I feel like I have always really loved Greek mythology. I loved Percy Jackson growing up. I think it's always really interesting. I loved learning about it in high school. I don't know. There's something about it that I love. And I think I read this at a time where I was struggling to find fantasy books that I really liked, and so this was just a really big breath of fresh air. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, so I think that was why I read it, was because it was free on Kindle, which you will get me. If it is free, if it is on Kindle Unlimited, you will catch me reading it, especially if it's fantasy, because it's really hard to find fantasy books that I feel like are actually good. So I was very pleasantly surprised by this book. I did not see it coming, and I really, really liked it. I know the second book is coming out sometime this year, and I'm really excited for it. I think I appreciated it because I feel like there was romance. Obviously, it's a romantasy book, but I can see that there's actually some plotting happening. There wasn't a ton in this book, but there was enough for me to be able to see like, okay, this is actually going somewhere, which I appreciate, because that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves is when books are like, the romantasy books are all just really romance, and the plot can't stand on its own outside of the romance. So I'm very intrigued to see how the rest of the series goes. I wonder how many books is the series supposed to be. Should I look it up? Let's see what Goodreads says. The Games Gods Play. I rated it 4 stars, by the way. I forgot to mention that part. I wonder if it's going to just be a duology, because on Goodreads there's only 2, which is The Things Gods Break, which comes out in September. Oh, that's so far away. So far away. Anyways, but I was genuinely surprised by this book, and I loved it. The second one is called The Things Gods Break. I think it might just end up being a duology, because I haven't seen, Goodreads doesn't have anything else listed for it, so I guess we'll find out. Okay, my honorable mention, my like 11th book, I guess, that I added, but now is getting put in the middle, is Tress of the Emerald Sea. This is the first Brandon Sanderson book I have ever read, and I did it because I knew it was a standalone, and because it was small, and I felt like it was like not much commitment. I've been really, really wanting to get into Brandon Sanderson, but every single time I sit down to read one of his books, I just get so intimidated. His books are scary, okay? And there's so much to them, and there's so much universe, world building. But it's my goal for 2025 to get into it, so we will try. But this is the one that I read, and it was so cute. I don't necessarily love the way that it was written. It was written in when there's like a narrator. Like, it's not one of the characters in the books that's well, he is a character in the book, but he's like a side character, like narrating the things that he's seeing about the other characters. It's not like narrated in third person by the actual girl. So I didn't like love that. I sound really stupid as I'm trying to explain this. I don't remember what it's called, but it was odd. It was an odd narrating style, but I will say, I feel like because I read so much, I feel like I struggle to find books that I don't predict by the end, because I just, I don't feel like, I feel like I just can always predict books a lot. I feel like a lot of them get really repetitive. I feel like I can predict them really easily. It's just not, I don't know. I just feel like they're not as like exciting to me. So when I do find a book that I feel like I didn't predict or I didn't see coming at the end or whatever the plot twists are, I'm always like really hooked onto it, and that was how this book was for me. And the main girl in this dress, she is like the definition of like, she's like the definition of like doing bad A things, but doing it in the most gentlest way possible. Like, she is the most like innocent, gentle person, but also she like just throws in some bad A moves at the end there, and you're like, huh. It like is even like funnier because she's not like meaning to be malicious by any means, but she's like, I have a goal and I will do it. And so I kind of love that. I feel like I just read so many books that I'm like, oh, that was fine. And this book was actually really good. And I think it was a really good breath of fresh air when I was reading it, being like, this is actually a well-written book. So that was very nice. Okay, that was my honorable mention. Now back to now we are in the top 5. 5, right? Yeah. Top 5 books of 2025. What? 2024, not 2025. Oh, I'm losing my mind. Okay, in 5th place, I am giving it to Apprentice to the Villain. I love this book. I mean, like, it had me kicking my feet. I was so happy with this book. I just love this book series. Is it the most, like, masterful book I've ever read? No, not really. But I do love just the vibe it gives. I love the tension and the banter, and I love the characters. And you can just tell that this is really written from a place of love and so much understanding about these characters, because there are a lot of characters, but I feel like you can really tell the difference between all of them. So I love this book. I think it's so freaking cute. I'm so excited for the next one, and I love it. I thought it was a really good book. Okay, I'm going way out of order. Okay, I know this is going to surprise a lot of people, but I also have in my top 5 House of Flame and Shadow. I know this is shocking, okay? I'm aware. I'm fully aware. But for me, in the moment that I was reading it for the first time, I loved it. Like, I loved every single minute about reading this book. And I know that for a lot of people, it was kind of like it wasn't what they were wanting or expecting, and I totally get that. The second time I read it, I definitely like didn't like it as much, but I have to look at it from the first time I read it, and the first time I read it, I cried. I was so excited. I was feeling everything that the characters were feeling, and for me, I feel like there are so many scenes in this book that I literally think about daily, that literally stuck in my brain, and I cannot get over. And I feel like that's how you know a book is really, really good, is when you actually remember the scenes, and there's certain aspects of the book that you actually like remember and recall and think about. And that's how this book is for me. I feel like there were so many just little things that I just really appreciated, especially as a big Sarah J. Maas fan. So there are a lot of aspects that I don't like, don't get me wrong, but there are so many parts that I love, and I really, really am excited for another Crescent City book, because I think that would be a little bit better, because I feel like I really do like this world. I just want to see it have a little bit more to it and not just be relying on some of her other books that she's also written. I want this to be its own story, and I want it to be so good. So, okay, next I have 5 Broken Blades, which is also a new adult fantasy read. It is like a heist book. It is the first book in the series. I know that the 4th one is coming out, or it's not the 4th, the 2nd one. It's called Four something realms. One moment. Four Ruined Realms. That's what the 2nd book is called. And I believe, she hasn't announced any other ones either, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be more. I mean, it would make sense. There would make sense there would be 5 books in the series, right? Right. I think I'm right. Anyways, this is a really cute romantasy book. One, I love the sprayed edges. I mean, look at them. They're stunning. And you buy it like this. You don't even have to order special edition or anything. It's like this at Barnes & Noble. It's amazing. But It is a heist. There are a lot of perspectives, okay? So follow me along on this. There are a lot of perspectives, but all of them have their own stories. They all have their own secrets. There is a lot of intertwining and being like, how are these people going to work together, and are they going to find out each other's secrets? And you know what their secrets are, but the other people don't know what their secrets are. And it's so good. I thought it was a very, very well-written book. Obviously, it had to have a lot of plotting because there's no way you can pull off this style of book where there's so many perspectives and so many storylines without good plotting. And then for me to also be surprised at the end by the plot twist, that's how you know, obviously, as we've talked about. So, and I really liked it too because there also is a lot of romance. Like, in the book itself, every single one of, like, the couples, like, there's multiple couples, and I loved it. I thought it was so cute. Anyways, I'm really excited for the fourth one, or why do I keep saying that? The second one. That's called Four Ruined Realms. Because I really think that this is going to be a very good book series, not just one book, but a series as a whole. And I need more people to read it because I want to talk about it with more people. In second place, which is one of the biggest surprises to me, I feel like, in 2024, because I literally saw not a single person talk about this book, which was The Dagger and the Flame, which is a YA romantasy book. I was so shocked because I literally saw no one talk about this. But one of my goals is always to, like, find books that I feel like not a lot of people talk about because I want to be the first, like, one of the first people to, like, mention it or recommend it. And obviously at the bookstore, it caught my eye because it's red and it's beautiful. I love the cover of it. And also it had a boy and a girl in it. So I was like, romantasy. Immediately. I knew. But I loved it. It's basically about this girl whose mom is killed, and she goes to what is called the cloaks. There are the cloaks and the daggers. I know. It sounds hilarious. But they're basically like two organizations within, is it London, or their, like, version of London, I guess? Or one of the two, like a city of some sort. Yes, that's what it says. In the dark underbelly of a beautiful city, two rival gang members are pitted against each other in a deadly game of duty and revenge in which the most dangerous mistake is falling in love. So basically they're like two, like, organizations. One are like these killers and one are these, like, thieves. That's what the cloaks are. Anyways, and this girl ends up with the cloaks. This guy is in the daggers, and he is told to kill this girl. And he's tracking her, he's following her, all this stuff, and they interact a lot, and it's just so good. Again, I love YA romantasy books and romance books because when you are writing in YA, you can't fall back onto smut because that's too graphic, so you have to, like, rely on other things, and you have to be creative with the way that you're going to portray romance, but still have that same, like, flutter in your gut feeling. And I just thought it was so good. I truly loved this. Like, this was a book that I literally was like, I have to keep reading. I cannot stop. I think I stayed up until, like, 3 a.m. reading it. And I also was, like, immediately, like, looking up, like, when is the second book coming out? Because I am so excited for the rest of the series. I definitely really wish that it was a standalone, but I do think it is only a duology. So at least we have that. So I'm super excited. And I really like her style of writing, so I need to look at if she has more books. Shall we look? Catherine Doyle, who's the author of this, wrote, she's written a lot. Whoa. Okay, she wrote, Twin Crowns. But she wrote that with someone else. Yeah, see, I don't think I do that. She wrote it, like, in partnership with Catherine Weber. I don't like books like that like, have, like, the dual, like, writers. So, like, one author writes in one character's perspective and the other one writes the other chapter. Like, they switch off chapters. I don't think I like that. But I love this one. So I highly recommend. And my top fantasy book of 2024 is, drumroll please, is, I can't even say the right word, Bardagia, I think is what it's called, which is the last book in the Midorian Chronicles. And I'm in love. I am in love with the Midorian Chronicles. It is a YA fantasy book series. There's 6 books in the series, I believe. And it is definitely young. Like, it definitely has, like, a young writing style. It's a little quirky at times. The romance is a very subtle subplot. But as we've established, I love good plotting. And I feel like Lynette Noni is so good at plotting. It is one of those things that you get to the end and you just sit back and you're like, how? Like, how did I not notice that was going to happen? How did she even plan that? Like, it is quite literally crazy, the plotting and planning that went into this book series, and the amount of times that my jaw was literally on the floor, okay? I was baffled by this book series. I am so shocked that not a lot of people talk about it because it is so, so good. The concept itself is a little quirky. Basically, it's about a girl who gets, I can't even remember what happens exactly or how she ends up here, but she ends up, that's right, she ends up basically through a portal to another world that is a school. So she's at a school for these like magic, these kids with magic, and she's a student there, and the story just unfolds more and more and more as the story goes on, and there's a villain, and she's trying to figure out how to defeat the villain. In this book specifically, there is a trial, and I think about this trial every single day because it was so well written, it was so good, it's so emotional, and I just loved it. It's so good. It is definitely by far one of my top favorite YA fantasy books of all time. Everyone needs to read it. Okay, now we have my top romance books that I read. I'm pretty sure that most of the books I read this year were romance because I read a lot of romance. I got into romance last year, and so this year I feel like was the year that I read a lot of like the most like popular romance books right now. So I have quite a bit of books specifically from the series, but I will also mention the series most likely as a whole because a lot of these book series are just so, so good. So first, we have the score from the Off-Campus series. I loved this book series as a whole. This was definitely, I think, maybe like my third experience with like interconnected standalones, and it was one of my first with like a college sports romance style, and I loved it. And there is one scene in particular in this book, if you know what I'm talking about. I know it's the one you're thinking of. It's so, so good. I think there's something that I love about their story is more of like a secret romance. They're like enemies, I think. Is that what it was? Oh, that's right. They end up sleeping together as like to like heal her broken heart or whatever, but they end up falling in love, keeping it a secret, all the things. And it's so good. I loved it. I thought it was an amazing, amazing book. Next, we have Variation by Rebecca Yarros. You will notice very quickly that I became a huge fan of Rebecca Yarros, not just because of Fourth Wing, but because of her romance books. Her romance books are so, so good, and I truly wish that more people talked about them because they are absolutely amazing. Variation was no exception. This was the newest book that she came out with in 2024, and I loved it. I love this. Again, she is probably the best, and this is why I think I like her so much, is because she is one of the best romance authors that I have seen that writes books about a romance, okay? But they also have she has layers upon layers of different plot lines that, yes, contribute to the romance, but they also contribute just to the characters as a whole, and they are so good. Like, I get plot twists and surprising things that, like, within this book that I would have never assumed. Like, it's not just it's not a straightforward romance book. I feel like there's so many other layers to it, and that's kind of how a lot of her books are. So I love this one. I also just love the cover. I think it's so stunning. So next is Keeping 13 from the Boys of Tommen series. This is the second book, but the series as a whole, very good. Specifically the 13 books and then Taming 7 I read this year as well, and they were all so good. I don't love Saving and Redeeming 6 just because I hate that they go like back in time for so long, but I am give me the emotional turmoil. I need it. I want it. And this book definitely gives you that. I feel like I literally was sobbing through this entire book. And it also was very touching to me because they're talking about foster care and like adopted siblings and things like that, and that is something that I've experienced in my life. I have 3 adopted siblings, and so I feel like it was like touching like a part of me that I feel like I kind of forget about sometimes, I guess. Anyways, it was so good and so emotional, and just I love it when a story has traumatic things happening in it. Like, there's just nothing better. I love when the guy comes and saves the girl. Like, I don't know. I am a true basic girl at heart. I love a damsel in distress, the Prince Charming coming and saving her, and that is how I feel like this book is, and I loved it. Next, we have The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. Again, this is just one of those books that has so many layers to it. It gives Nicholas Sparks vibes in this one for sure. And I thought it was so good. Again, I don't have any other way to explain it other than it's just such good writing and such good plotting. And basically the story of it is that there's this girl who owns the rights to her grandma's books, and a writer comes in to basically finish a book that her grandma had started and never finished. And it's them basically fighting. She's very protective over her grandma's writing, and the reason why is because, actually, is that something you know? Oh, it's her great grandmother. Sorry. Oh, that's right. Okay, so they learn she writes this book, but she never finished it. And as they're like doing more research about her life and things like that, they realize why she never finished the book. And guys, I literally have never been so shook about an ending of a book ever in my life. Like, I, even just thinking about it right now, like, I remember where I was when I read it. I was baffled. Shocking. It's so good. Like, if you want a good, like, a solid, good romance book, this is it. It was insane. Even just for the plotting itself, like, just the story outside of the romance, it's worth the read. It is worth the read. In fact, I should have put that book higher. Now that I think about it, so good. Next, we have King of Sloth. I don't know what it was about this book that has crack cocaine in it, but I loved it. I don't know why. It's very basic. Anna Huang's books. This is the 4th book in the King of Sin series, so this is the book she just came out with last year. And relatively speaking, her books all just kind of end up being the same in a lot of ways. They're all just about people in high society in New York or Washington, D.C., and it's really not much to it. But I think what made this book fun is that we see a lot of cameos from other characters in the Twisted series and in this one and all the things. So I feel like that's kind of what made me love it so much. But I also just love their story. Like, I kind of like the, like, concept of, like, taming the wild boy and him basically becoming a man. I don't know. I think it's really cool. And I also think that whatever she's doing, she has this, like, consistent, like, underlying plot that's occurring throughout the King of Sin series, and I'm really interested to see where it's going. And so I think that's what also made it really interesting to me, was because I've never really seen an interconnected standalone romance book series do that before. So updates on that to come. Next, we have The Reality of Everything by Rebecca Yarros, which is the 5th book in the Flights and Glory series. And again, the book series as a whole, chef's kiss fantastic. It is a military romance book series, and it's so good. The 3rd one also would be on here, but I don't have the book because I haven't been able to find it at Barnes & Noble. But it is so good and heart-wrenching, and also just so healing, as the main character in the book is struggling with a lot of anxiety after the love of her life passed away in the military. And as someone who also struggles with anxiety, it was very healing almost to read about this character who was struggling so much. I also have a weak spot for kids, and the male love interest in this book has a daughter, and I just have a weak spot for that. So I just love it. And again, it sits on that border of, it's not fluffy romance, but it's not like dark romance either. Like, there's things happening in it that are sad and hard to deal with, but it's not like too dark. Anyways, I just loved it. I thought it was so good, and I recommend this entire series because it was absolutely amazing. In 4th place, we have Wild Eyes, which is shocking because I actually really did not like the 1st book in this series, which was Wild Love, that also came out last year. So I had, like, literally 0 expectations going into this book last year. I was like, I guess we'll see if it's good or if it's worth it, and I loved it. I thought it was so good. And I love the romance. Again, I think I have a weak spot for kids, and he has kids in this, but I feel like there was a good balance between the kids and the romance as well. And I don't know, I loved it. And I think I've become in love with kind of just the story, the found family characters that Elsie Silver creates. I love found family. I love those type of characters, and so seeing that come to fruition in this book was just so cute. I loved it. But to the things I would do to get my hands on Wild Side immediately, which is the 3rd book coming out in 2025, and I'm so excited. Okay, my top 3 romance books of 2024. In 3rd place, we have Play Along, which is the 4th book in the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. And moral of the story, this entire book series is literally so good, but if I had to pick one, it would be Play Along. Isaiah and Kennedy, yeah, I almost got that mixed up with a different book. Isaiah and Kennedy end up in a forced marriage situation when they're they go to Vegas They get drunk and they end up getting married in Vegas. Okay. She's the team doctor and he's a baseball player. I love baseball players. I married a baseball player. I mean, come on now. Of course I'm going to love them. But I also loved it because Isaiah is the younger brother to Kai, who's the main guy in the third book. So I think that there just was like a really good like storylines. I already knew the character. I already had an emotional tie to him because we had obviously been introduced and known him from Kai's book. But I also just think that their story is just so good, and it was so cute. I also liked it because it was a little bit shorter than the other ones. I don't know. I just love her style of writing, and I thought it was so good, and it made me so happy. There was something I was thinking, too, that I can't think of now. Oh, he's also like Golden Retriever, which I love. I love my good Golden Retriever boys, so, I mean, can't complain. In second place, we have The Graham Effect, which is the first book in the Campus Diary series by Elle Kennedy. So for those of you who don't understand how her books work, she has the Off-Campus series, and then she came out with a Campus Diary series, which are about the kids of the Off-Campus series characters. So basically it's like a second generation book series. I did not know what to expect in this book, and I was very daunted, and I honestly waited a long time to read it because it's thick, okay? It's a thicky book. And I am a strong believer that romance books should be no longer than 400 or 450 pages, and that's pushing it. And this one is, I guess it's almost 500 pages. I would say 400 books. Like, if a romance book is more than 400 pages, I'm like, what are you doing? But I loved it. I love their romance. I love the tension. I love the characters. I love Gigi. I think it also it automatically makes you love it because you get cameos from the other characters that I fell in love with when I read the Off-Campus series. I just thought it was so good. And I was a little bit hesitant because she's like a hockey player, like a girl hockey player, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if that's going to be very good, but it actually was really good and not cringy, and I loved it. And I also feel like it was like talked about obviously, but it wasn't like this like crazy like over the top mention, and like there was no like strong political viewpoints either that were mentioned in it. It just was like she's a hockey player and moved on. Like it wasn't like a big deal, and I was like, oh, I love. So this is probably one of my biggest surprises of 2024 as well. But in first place, my favorite romance book I read in 2024, and also just the series as a whole, is Reckless by Elsie Silver, which is from the Chestnut Springs series. It's the fourth book, but just in general, the Chestnut Springs series is one of my favorite romance books series of all time, / just definitely the one from 2024. It is cowboy romances, which I love. I think are absolutely amazing, and they're my favorite. But I specifically love this one because, one, again, love kids, and there's a child in this. I love Golden Retriever boys, who Theo is. I had already also really fallen in love with Theo's story, and also Winter's, because we get introduced to them so early on, and so I was just already hooked from the beginning about these characters and who they were as people and everything. And I just think it is so good. I love seeing books where the characters just have a really good arc, and I felt like Winter specifically has a really good character arc because you know where she starts, which is a really sad place, and to see her grow, her character just grow and grow even more, I thought it was absolutely amazing. And just in general, I love the Chestnut Springs series. The found family aspect of it is by far one of the best found families I've ever read. I have a weak spot for found families, and this is definitely one of my favorites. So anyways, those are my top, 20 books of 2024. It was a really big year for me. I have never read that many books ever in my life, and it's my same goal that I have for 2025 as well. So I'm excited for 2025. I know there's a lot of books coming out that I'm really excited about, so I'm really excited. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe, because I will be here every Tuesday. I swear, I pinky promise. I will try my best. Every Tuesday, video. You got it? All right. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you all next week. Bye. Mwah. Love you all.
I just can't get